again, this will probably be an interactive session that Lawrence and I can answer your questions along the way. So this is our collaborative research program. Lawrence already introduced it this morning. This is this is the way ICGEB provides funds, seed funds to laboratories in ICGEB member countries. So we bring money to laboratories in our member countries, and we have one call a year, and this takes place at the end of April. This was this call last year. That we will make a new call for end of April 2020. The selection process will then take, as Lawrence said, will take place in, it's a long process. I will go through the procedure of the selection, and approximately this time the results will be announced, and you will be starting the grant the 1st of January of 2021. So ICGEB. So as Lawrence said, there's this word collaborative because as I will tell you, collaboration is an important part of the application. So I'll go through the application just to inform you what we look for in an application form. So we support, as I said, laboratories from member countries. So there are so-called standard grants, and also we have early career grants, which we support scientists that are young scientists that have come back to Jordan at least 2 years. I've been to Jordan no longer than 2 years, 2 years back. So they just come back recently. Okay. As I go through, with the grant, you can fund your consumables, your equipment, your personnel, and travel. There are certain rules about this that I will also show you. So there are certain percentages of the grant that you can use for these expenses. Okay. So the purpose and subject area. So the research grant was really established with ICGEB at the beginning. We believe that bringing money to the best labs in our member countries is really a direct and very good way to promote science in our member countries. Okay, so we are looking very much at the good labs. We're looking very much at collaboration, and as Lawrence said, collaborations with other institutions in the country or with laboratories in other member countries, and also with laboratories in non-ICGEB member countries as well. Okay, and also we would like this. The idea of this is also to improve the research capability and facilities, infrastructure in the laboratory or in a department of a member country. Okay. So the eligibility. So applicants, so the PI, the applicant, needs to have a position at a university or institution in an ICGEB member country. So the applicant doesn't have to be a Jordanian national. It can be any nationality as long as he or she is working in a university institution here in Jordan. Okay. Collaboration, it's called collaborative, so we want to make sure that there's no confusion. I mean, collaboration with ICGEB is welcome, but it's not mandatory. You will not be penalized, you will not get points taken off if you don't have an ICGEB laboratory as a part of a collaboration. Many do have, but it's not mandatory. And it's not, collaboration in general is important, but it doesn't have to be with ICGEB. Again, here, I've put the sentence, okay, it is true, we do like that the topic of research, the topic of the application deals with a specific, in a research area which is of interest to a geographical reason. Again, this is welcome, but if there is top science, science is the first and utmost parameter that we look at. If there is top science done in basic fundamental research, that is also okay. But we do say that if it is relevant to the needs of the country, it is nice, okay, but not mandatory. Early career grants, as I said to you before, let me just say to begin with, the standard grants and the early careers are kind of a little bit separate in terms of how many you can apply from one country. I'll come to that later on. An early career, okay? So the early career grants fund young scientists motivated young scientists who've been abroad and spent a minimum of 2 years abroad. So not a long time, actually. Okay? And they should not be more than 40 years of age. And they should have returned to Jordan no more than 2 years ago, prior to submitting the application. So these are little parameters. These are important parameters that we look at, just to keep. So they are called early career return grants. Okay, I think it's all clear. You can apply for. Sorry, you apply for standard grants. So we have two categories of when you in your first page of the application form. I'll show you now. You will apply a standard grant, and there's no age limit. There's no restriction about whether you've been abroad or not. That's called a standard grant. These are early career grants, which are have a different status. Are specifically addressed to people who've come back, who've recently come back. Yeah. Regular grant. Okay. So.
Excuse me.
Where? Yes, yes.
Why age is important to be less than 40 to grant them as early career return scientist?
Well, it is an early career, so it stands that your career is still in an early phase. If you're not an early career, you apply for a standard grant. You're not excluded from the other grant. So we have two types of grant. A standard grant that anybody can apply.
Okay.
Early career, we like to encourage people to come back to their home. This is like encouraging people to come back to the home country.
Okay, if I started my job at age 40, for example, is it something...
Then you will apply for...
Something wrong?
No, it's nothing wrong.
No, this is a general standard that we apply for someone who has followed a normal route of career through science. If someone has followed a slightly different route and there's justifications for career breaks or whatever, we look at those.
That's good. You know, other agencies have this. It's kind of, maybe somebody's abroad now and is thinking, shall I go back to Jordan or not? This could be a way to encourage him or her to come back, and also come back with a grant. So if you go back with a grant to a lab, that will also make your life easier, and also the institution that will host you will also be happy that you come with a grant. So it's a kind of encouraging maybe Jordanians who've been abroad, who are abroad right now, also to apply to come back. So it's clear there are two categories of grants: the standard grants and the early career. Okay, so basically anybody who has a group can apply. So just to go through what, you know, both Lawrence and I, we are members of the committee. We are members of the committee that will assess grants and that will also send grants out for external review, and then receive back the comments and read these comments and be involved in the selection procedure. Just to go through a few points that are important, that are important for a good research project. Okay. You know, it is very important we understand clearly what is your research question, what is your research hypothesis. And this, when I read a grant, has to be present all the time when I read the grant. I don't have to be, when I read the grant, reminded, oh, but what was the research question? No, when I'm reading maybe another part and it says, wait. So there has to be a good flow and a good connection, that we know exactly what your research question and your research hypothesis is. Okay? And it has to be, obviously, it has to be in the life sciences. This is also a very important point. Be realistic. I mean, all the members of the selection committee and the reviewers are PIs. So very often we review grants that we just know that it's impossible to do all the work that you present. And there's so many different techniques that you present. So don't try to impress us, so I'm going to do so much. We have to be realistic. You do, in terms of time frame and in terms of money that you're asking. Okay, so you don't have to present a lot of work in order to impress us that you will have a better chance. It has to be a realistic amount of work that you propose for the time and money that you ask for. Okay, I mean, these are fairly straightforward things I'm saying, but I think, these have to be crystal clear, okay, in your proposal. Original novel studies. I know this is difficult, even when you submit a paper, novelty is always one of the parameters that we look at. But that's what we want to see. We want to see that it's something novel, that is a new idea. We don't like that, we see the CV of the PI and we see the work that he or she has been done for so many years, and this is just a continuation of what he or she is doing, of the proposer is doing. Okay, we don't want to see a set of screens, or I'm going to, take 50 isolates and screen them all for this activity, or, we don't want a set of omics experiment. I'm going to do RNA-seq of this, and this, and then when I look at the data, I will then choose a couple of genes, a couple of things to do that and that. So, these kinds of proposals we get a lot, and these get very often discarded immediately. So you have to have a novel idea, and in many cases it's also advisable to have a little bit of preliminary data that gives an indication that there is a feasibility, that your novel idea has some foundation. I mean, it's not mandatory, but I'm talking because, as you will see now, the statistics is really cruel. We do fund very small percentage of what we get. So all these things count, okay? So by no means just put forward an omics saying, oh, I have this plant that is resistant to this pathogen. I'm just going to do RNA-seq and find out what are the resistance genes. That will not go through. You need to have a more, that's not a novel question. This is a very broad and then, and with a lot of question marks. If you've done the RNA-seq and you have a really exciting gene and you have already some indication that gene is special, and then you build on that, that would be fantastic. Okay? It's clear? Yeah, be concise. We have specific word limits, and we have specific. You will see the application form is very clear. Don't exceed, and also don't be too brief. We get all kinds of applications that are either too long or too short. It has to be concise. Use the words that you need, no more, no less. I mean, these are, obviously what I'm saying is, but I have to say these things. Yeah, again, I've already mentioned this. This is nice. You're addressing a question, a research question, which is important to your country or to your region, and you must have collaboration. Training, you will see in the application form, there is a part on training and a part on collaboration. So collaboration, we want to see that you have good collaborators and ideally collaborators who will complement the expertise that is required for the project. So if you need a bioinformatician, then you collaborate with a bioinformatician. If you need a microscopist, you collaborate. So then we understand that collaboration is valuable. So it will not get you points if you're collaborating with somebody that has the same experience as you and is doing exactly the same kind of approaches as you, because that will mean, will not really add much to the, maybe it has a different model, that will help, but a different technique. Okay. And training, very often we read, oh, we will train 2 master students, or we will train blah, blah. Our advice, be specific. We will train one master student, and if you have a name, put it there. We will train one PhD student. We will send one PhD student to do 3 months to our collaborator, and be very specific. So we see that you're not writing just a few lines, oh, I will train. So I will train a few students. You know, we're looking for these things. We're looking to make sure that you've really thought about it and you've really put that into your ground. You know, we have a lot of experience. We see when things are not clear or established. So training and collaboration has to be very clear. So the application form, the part 1, you will put, these are current and previous employment, current and previous grants. We would like to know where you were working before, where you're working now, which grants, how active. Again, this is useful information for us to have, but if you just, an early career, if you're very young and you apply for a standard grant because you haven't been abroad, that will not penalize you. We see your age and you see, oh, you're at the beginning. This is a great idea, a great potential. We don't require that you've already had 10 grants or you've worked in 3 or 4 places. But we would like to know this information, but we will use it correctly. Publications, we would like to know what you published, and we would like you to highlight the publications that are mostly directly concerned with the proposal that you have. If you have very good articles in subject A and your proposal is subject B but close to A, and you have nothing and you don't have publication subject B, that will not penalize you, because we see that you published well and now you have a new idea on something else. That will be fine. But we would like to know the publications that you have and the ones that are directly relevant, if there are any relevant to the proposal that you're making, that you're submitting. Okay? The part 2 and 3 and 4 is the project. This application form is online. It's online. So the title and abstract, again, be concise. Title is important. We really immediately see sometimes titles are 4 lines. No, that's what I don't advise. Clear title and a concise abstract cover, which shows you clearly the aims. Again, introduction. Again, you have a certain amount of space for that. We would like to know, again, that you have a good understanding of the current state-of-the-art scenario in that topic, with the appropriate references. We send them, we have comments of reviewers that said, oh, this proposer has proposed to do A, B, and C, and he or she has not cited the main articles of that subject. We've had reviews right now. I have reviews right now that we've currently reviewed of this year's call that have these comments. And that is not good, because you're proposing in a research area and you're not citing the keystone, the fundamental articles, and that is not a good sign. So a clear introduction that fits with your aims, with a proper, which fits properly to the state of the art in the field. The research project, the aims, the milestones, the methodologies, the collaborative experiments, the facilities and training, and logical outline and time frame. Everything realistic. I can really tell you so many grants that propose an incredible amount of work from all different angles that we know it's impossible to do in that time frame with that money. Okay? You have a certain amount of space for all this, so be careful. We have a document online that you can download, how to write an ICGEB grant proposal. So everything I'm saying, it's also written down. You can download it and read it. So it's also there in case you want it in the section of our webpage, in the section of the collaborative grants. The budget. So these are the both early career and standard grants are 3-year grants. The maximum amount of money you can ask for is 25,000 euros per year. So it's 75,000 euros for 3 years. I know it's not an enormous amount of money, but we know that it makes a difference in a lot of our member countries. Okay, and these are the three. You can see here the 3 years, and you can see here the voices on the, you know, that we have: equipment, consumables, training, travel, literature. Let's just go through them a little bit. Equipment has to be justified. Again, if we see that you're asking to buy a PCR machine and there's no PCR in your project, not good, obviously, it's common sense. So your equipment has to fit, obviously, your research. I say these things because it's, you know, it has to be clear. Your equipment has to fit exactly, it has to fit your research project. A single piece of equipment cannot exceed more than 10,000 euros. Computers and softwares are not allowed. And if a piece of equipment is less than 500 euro, it should be under consumables. Consumables, we know in molecular biology and a lot of things we do are very important. Outsourcing should not be the 20% of the total. And, you know, if you use a lot of money to outsource everything, fine. I mean, we understand that, but, you know, it's something that sometimes we look at. But we do realize research has changed a lot. There's omics that need outsourcing. Training. So we're going through equipment, consumables, training. Short-term visits, they have to be a maximum of 3 months, and they have to be approved by us. So if you want to send a student, or even the PI needs to go 3 months somewhere for a reason, they have to ask permission to a collaborator that is in the grant. They have to contact us for approval, and we'll give you the approval. If it's in the grant, we give it to you. You can also invite somebody in your lab to come, and you can cover the stipend. But again, somebody come to your lab, it has to be of an ICGEB nationality. And again, you have to ask us for approval for that. We'll give it. I mean, we just like to keep track. We have a very, very efficient CRP office. You will write an email, you will get immediately a reply. We have 73 grants ongoing, and there's constant communication. It's very efficient. Okay. So the person who can come to your lab, sorry, I forgot to say, has to be an ICGEB nationality, but different from the applicant's country. So you cannot invite somebody from another university in Jordan. Travel, not more than 10%. For example, you need to go to conferences, field, you have to go in sampling to fields, both in your country or abroad. That fits under travel. No more than 10% of the budget. Literature publication is expensive, we all know that. So we cover that, and also you can, for the 3 years, you can subscribe to a journal. Okay? Even though nowadays we have a lot of open access, which makes things a little easier, right? All the guidelines are on the web, and again, I repeat, the crp@icgb.org is, you can write there and you will immediately get an email. If not, you can write to Lawrence and I, and we'll make sure that you get a reply. But our CRP office is very, very efficient. Part 6, referees. You can put your referees that you can suggest referees that you think would be suitable to review your proposal. It doesn't mean we will use them. It's a bit like submitting a publication. You can suggest referees, and you can also suggest reviewers that you don't want to review your paper for, obviously because you're doing similar research and you don't want to reveal yourself to your competitors, let's say. And we understand that, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen, okay? Not compulsory, you can leave it blank. I mean, we have a list we have many reviewers that help us. Any question on the application procedure?
Thank you again. Not to undermine the amount you are offering per year, but it seems from my past experience, this is more supporting mechanistic rather than discovery projects, I gather, I think. Do you agree?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, I'm a bacteriologist. You can do a lot with 75,000 euros. You can discover a lot of things. So I see what you mean, that the amount of money is limited, but I would rather say that it depends on the research you're doing. I know some research is much more expensive than others. We appreciate that, but we cannot have different budgets for different subjects. Okay.
Thank you. Just one question. Do we have to consider some preliminary data within the proposal, or it's not necessary?
It is not mandatory, but as I said before, if you propose a new idea with absolutely no data, and in your proposal you're saying, oh, we will do this because afterwards we want to, with the data, we want to probably find that to do that, then for us it's an alarm bell, because you're relying on some data that you need to find in order to move on. And then, so we ask ourselves as reviewers, oh, what if you don't find that data? What are you going to do? So that's why some preliminary data is necessary sometimes. Not all, it depends again, not always, but this is the kind of example I give you. If we see a proposal that relies, that says I'm going to do omics because then I need to find that I need to find the target gene. In order to do that, then we say, wait, if you don't find the target gene, what are you going to do for the rest of the time? So my answer is, in most cases, yes, it's very useful. It doesn't have to be much.
So how it's dynamic to spend the money, Dr. Venturi? Like, is it like, I have to also have my own purchase orders and with the quotations, and is there any mechanism of action? How can I really contact the companies for the equipments, for the consumables? How does it work?
We will transfer the money to the money. You will receive the money here to your institution, and then you have to handle it here.
Okay.
You then have to give us a report how you spent. You have to provide evidence that you spent it according to how you planned it.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. Then you have to follow the rules of your institution.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So the selection procedure is what I want to go through, because I will give you also. And this is a little bit sad for me, because obviously the numbers are very cruel. The first screen is organized by the country, by the focal point. So Dr. Belal will need to do the first screen. Let me explain you why. We have 66 member countries. If all the PIs in the 66 member countries have the freedom to apply to our CRPs, you can imagine what will happen. We cannot handle the numbers. So we need to have a first screening done by the host country, because the host country can only send to us maximum 3 standard grants and 2 early career grants, total 5. So that we have a reasonable number we can handle in Trieste. So there will be more than this. So that will have to be, Dr. Belal will have to organize a selection here nationally in order to decide which 3 standard grants and 2 early career grants will then be submitted to Trieste. Now, we in Trieste have a copy, we will receive a copy of all the grants that will be submitted to Jordan, but we will only take for review the grants that Dr. Belal will tell us. Is that clear, or I have to repeat? So, for example, this year Argentina had like 38 grants. So then the liaison officer of Argentina organizes a selection process with reviewers internally and decides which ones are sent to ICGEB. We in ICGEB have all 39 applications in our database. We want to have that just in case. It doesn't really happen. In case the 5 that we received, 3 plus 2, for some reason, we can always go back and take a look at the other ones if we need to. But in most cases, basically all cases, the selection done by those countries is very good. So Dr. Belal has a big responsibility to organize a review process and send us 3+2. You can appreciate, we cannot ask you to directly apply to ICGEB from 66 member countries. We will get a number that we just cannot handle. So this is the first screen. So Dr. Belal will send to us 3 standard grants. Will say to us 3 standard grants and the 2 early career. Okay, we have them all in the database in any case, right? So then we have Lawrence. Sorry.
Just to add one extra thing about the importance of the liaison officer with the selection, it's also so that the country can actually also look at what's been submitted and also make an internal assessment about what the priorities are for that particular country in terms of the research activities that have been done.
Okay. So you know, it's good feedback for you to. Okay. So then we get these at least five grants from all the 66 member countries, and then we organize a triage. So an internal triage in ICGEB. So each grant will be at least read by 2 PIs who are competent in that research field. Right? So that's quite. So they will all be read. And then we have to make a decision after that triage, which ones will be sent to peer review. So not all the grants that we receive will be sent to external peer review. They will be initially reviewed by PIs from ICGEB in that topic. And they will give it a kind of grade, a feedback of the application. And then we have a meeting and decide which ones will go out for peer review. So a percentage of that will go out for peer review. And I cannot give you an exact number because that can vary. Because if we have a lot of excellent grants, then we will send more for peer review. So what I've talked earlier about, the tips I've given you, these are the kind of things we look at. Unrealistic timeline, too much work, lack of preliminary data, no novelty, badly written. All these parameters will then most likely lead to most likely mean that your grant application will be rejected already at triage phase. That's what we're looking first. Those are the parameters I discussed as the things we're going to look at triage. Then we will decide, after this triage which ones will go out for peer review, which I think this year was over 70 or close to 80. And the peer review, so each application will then go for at least two experts in the field, external experts in the field. Just like it's done in a publication. We want transparent evaluation from experts. Okay. So let me just go through the numbers. And again, this is painful for me because I would like that we could fund more. But just to say what happened in 2018, we actually received 528 applications endorsed by our liaison officers. Right? Sorry, 502. Yeah, they were submitted to our liaison officers. After their selection, as I mentioned, 181 made it to ICGEB. They were endorsed from 45 member countries. And you can see here, we have member countries that have not applied. Because we have 66 member countries. So 181 were endorsed, and the liaison officer gave us the go-ahead. And these 181 were triaged, as I've just said, and 87 went for peer review, which involved over 90 international experts. And you can appreciate that this takes time. We are all busy. There's a lot of proposals to read. Our reviewers are busy reviewing, doing a lot of other institutional and on the research. So this takes time. And at the end of all this, 19 projects are funded. So if we look at the statistics, it's 19 out of 528 really that are funded. And this is very painful for me, and Lawrence and I and other, all the team of ICGEB are always looking at ways to increase. Lawrence this year is his first mandate, increased the budget by 5%. We're always looking where to get the money from other places to increase the budget for CRP, because we are very, very fond of this program. But again, we would like to do more, and we're always looking for ways to increase increase the number that we can fund. And you can see down here the geographical distribution of our grants. And also, what I'd like to take the opportunity here is that all this work, sometimes we feel that it can go to better use, because I can tell you that from the 87, we could fund more than 19. So maybe our member countries can use some of this work. Maybe we could say to some of the member countries, oh, we received 2 excellent proposals from Jordan, and one was slightly better for this reason than the other, but the other should really be funded too. And then we can tell this information to Jordan, and then maybe Jordan can fund it with the other form of funding, because all this work, all this quality control that we do might also be useful for you to then say to your institution, oh, ICGEB has done all this work, they could fund one, but the other one was really fundable, just, and can we fund it in another way? Okay. So we're always happy to look at alternative ways that host countries, if you have any ideas how to be involved with some of your own funding to be involved in the funding here, we'd be very happy to hear that. Okay, so to finish off, this is the evaluation form, just to this is the evaluation form that is sent to the external peer reviewers. So you can see here, they will have, the external peer reviewer will get proposal number, the title, and they will get these, they will have to give these grades: scientific excellence 1 to 30, feasibility and infrastructure 1 to 30, clarity and focus 1 to 20, training 1 to 10, collaboration 1 to 10, and then they will give a set of comments on, very often we ask them to give recommendations for improvement, or give us reasons why or provide reasons why this application is excellent and should be funded. So you will also receive the comments underneath. So at the end of all this, we have all the external reviews of the 87 grants. Each grant will be handed to a rapporteur. So we are 5 PI, no, more than 5. We are 5, 6, 7, 8 PIs, which are part of the CRP selection committee, and including the director of New Delhi, the director of Cape Town. So there's 8 of us, and each member of the committee will be the rapporteur of a set of grants. So he or she will then be, for example, if I'm the rapporteur of one grant from Jordan, I will have read the 2 reviews. I will also look at the grant, and then we will go through, when we have the final meeting, we go through one by one, and they'll ask me, oh, Vittorio, tell us about the Jordanian, this Jordanian application. I will, okay, we had 2, this is about this, the strength is this, the reviewers say this, and then this meeting lasts for several hours, and then on the basis of discussing every single project, which will, each rapporteur will present every single project. We will then decide which of the 19 will be funded. And as Lawrence already showed, this is the current state of the art. We have 73 ongoing CRPs at the moment, and you can see they're all over the world. I mean, the topic is not here, and we cover all kinds of topics. We go from biotech to agriculture to plant sciences, to cancer, to infectious diseases. We cover, in very diverse fields. So the website is updated regularly. It's a very good source. The CRP email is that one. It's very easy to remember, and if not, you can always write to Director General, who will if you have a specific question or other, answer it, or he will direct your email to the right person. That's it. That's all I wanted to. That's all my slides. Yeah. Please. Yes.
I'm wondering about opportunities for co-funding. So, for example, in our institution, we do have competition for intramural grants within the institution. So, it might be useful for us to sort of compete internally for an additional amount that can cover certain things. So, I'm wondering if there are restrictions for co-funding certain projects.
Let me understand you. You mean in your in your CRP application, you want to state that this project is co-funded by another grant?
Yeah. So, for example, if I need 80,000, and the maximum I'm able to apply for is 70,000, and my institution is willing to, or a smaller grant will be able to cover the other 5,000. Is that a possibility? And what are the restrictions?
It's a good question. Lawrence, there's no restrictions. You can put that in your application that you have, that you need 80,000, but 10,000. You
Whether
ask 70.
or external.
Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I want to ask for the training part. Is it mandatory also for a project to have a training part, or is it okay to leave it blank or something?
No, it's mandatory. We have, maybe that's not clear in our applications, but we really would like this. Sorry, Lawrence, you can. No, so, if I see an application without any training, it will, you see, it's 10 points. So you will not get the 10 points, and then you will, even if you get to the end, if you pass the triage, you'll be in trouble getting the marks. Okay.
This is something that historically, when these grants were very first established, our governing council decided that training should be a fundamental part of the whole process, and so that's why we have to keep it there. Our governors want us to retain training as being an important element. The other thing that is also within that same category is also the collaboration. And again, it's for the same reason. That was one of the rules that the governing council gave us as an organisation at the beginning. And I would say that for the collaboration, it might look like we have a very brutal triage process, but in actual fact, it's because a lot of the grants that we get just don't take those elements seriously.
Exactly.
The collaboration, they maybe say, oh, I'm going to collaborate with this lab in the UK, let's say, but they don't have a letter, they don't say what they're going to do. It's just a name they've pulled out of a hat. And so those sort of grants, we just can't push them forward because they're essentially not complete. And really, the ones that make it to that final section where they get international peer review, it means they fit all the criteria that we have as an organisation, and then we leave the scientific evaluation to real experts in that field.
I have a question regarding early career grant. It's not clear how to apply for it. Shall I write research proposal to get
Yes. In the first page, in the first page, you will specify if it is an early career grant or not. It's the application form.
Okay.
In my view, is very clear. If you download the application form, the first page asks, "Is this an early career grant?" And you put yes. You just tick. It's very easy.
Okay, thank you.
Very easy. Okay.
Thank you so much for your questions.